Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They don't lack discipline, and they certainly aren't missing opportunity. They fail because they never decide what they actually want. And if you don't decide, life's going to decide for you.
This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Today's episode, man, I got to tell you, this one's a little bit personal for me. You know, doing some reflection, going into the new year. You know, the book, Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. Man, this one hits home. This is a personal one for me. I'm not sure if you've ever read this book, Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale, but if you haven't, I would tell you, put it on your list for 2026. This was the very first book that I ever read. And I know right now some of you are saying, that was the first book. It wasn't like Where the Red Fern Grows or whatever it might be. Let me tell you a little bit about High School Jeff. High School Jeff wouldn't have made it through high school without this thing called Cliff's Notes. If you know, you know. If you don't, go Google it. I never read a book. You know, even the book assignments. At best, I paraphrased. At best, I got the Cliff's Notes. I never read a book. I just hated to read. So here I am now. I'm in my adult life, and I'm in my early 20s, if you will. I don't know, 24 maybe, 22, not sure. And this book, Lead the Field, is given to me by my sales manager, Sean. Now, many of you, if you've been watching the show or read my book, Sean, he rings a bell to you because Sean is this leader that was in my life at just the right time to start to develop and mold this young professional. You know, at that point in my life, when Sean gave me this book, I was super hungry, but I was also super unclear. I was motivated, no question about it, but I'm sitting here trying to figure out what direction should I go? What direction actually mattered? Because here's what we all know at this point. Hard work and productivity and hard work and execution, they're not always the same. And that book, since the first time I read it, has stuck with me all these years. I've read it multiple times since that very first time that Sean gave it to me. And I seem to come back to it whenever I feel like I'm entering a new season. And hey, I'm excited to report I feel like I'm entering a new season. Look, I don't even have anything concrete to report, but man, have you ever just been in that season that you're kind of feeling all the momentum? You know, you're starting to see some fruit of the effort, and you don't want to miss it, and you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of it. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. So most recently, I went back and I reread chapter 8. I didn't reread the whole book, but I went back and I reread chapter 8. And the chapter 8 is titled, How to Get What You Want. Great title of a chapter too, by the way, right? Because why? I went back to that chapter because I'm looking for clarity. As I think about what lies ahead in 2026, this chapter asks a profound question. What is it that you want? So I'm not here to give you a full book review today. That's not what the episode is about. What I do want to do is I want to give you a quick summary of the book. But then I'm going to go quickly into chapter 8 and tell you how I'm reading this chapter and I'm applying it. Whether you read the book or not, you don't need to read the book to get the essence of this episode, but I do recommend the book for your library. At its core, this book, Lead the Field, it teaches that success isn't just this event. It's certainly not a title. No way is it a destination. Success is this result of having a very clear philosophy about what's coming, about what's next, about what success is. It's about having a healthy attitude. In the book, the author talks a lot about a worthy goal and the discipline to grow into the person that you are capable of achieving this goal. And so it's this real profound thinking about how do I elevate and get to the next level. And it really puts you into some places of thought that maybe you don't go into quite often. Success, what we know is it's not something that you just accidentally stumble upon. It's something you earn by becoming very intentional with your thinking, your actions, your growth, all of these things that have to happen, by the way, consistently over the long haul. And this book it's kind of this motivation, yes, but also this mindset shift to help you be more intentional of getting there. So let's talk about chapter 8, because chapter 8, in different seasons of my life, like the one I'm in right now, chapter 8 resonates. Matter of fact, if I'm recalling this literally in this moment, I think about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I talked about a completely different chapter in the book when I talked about the field of diamonds. If you're an OG listener, maybe you remember that episode, because I pull nuggets from this book throughout my life journey since my early 20s. But I had to go back to this chapter 8 because I'm looking for clarity. Clarity, is this rifle approach versus a shotgun approach. I'm not just spraying things out. I need to find the bullseye, and I need to get inside the bullseye. Chapter 8 asks this very confronting question. Do you actually know what you want? Let me pause there, because this is powerful. Have you ever sat by yourself in the quiet of the morning and just asked yourself this question? Do you actually know what you want? Now, I can tell you this from being a mentor and a coach for several years. I've asked this question to so many people. The response that I get is this look of, I don't really know how to articulate it. I'm not really sure. And then usually what happens is they start firing off multiple things that they want. But that's not clarity, is it? Now, that might not seem like this overarching impressive thing to you. But this, do you actually know what you want? It starts because we're not talking about what sounds impressive. We're not talking about what others expect from you. We're not talking about what keeps you busy. We're talking about what is it that you really want. And have you ever sat with that thought and really pondered it? This chapter matters because many people are successful on paper, but unclear in practice. And we're not just here to be successful on paper. We need to be very clear in our practice, because what we do consistently is who we become. People are doing a lot, but they're not necessarily moving forward. This practice, when we sit down with this, it forces clarity, and clarity always precedes change. Because if you don't have clarity and you're moving fast, you're just moving fast, going nowhere. Clarity drives you forward to the mission, to the goal. And there's principles in this chapter that I think are worth talking about. And one of those principles is you don't drift into what you want. Meaning you don't just kind of land where it is that you want. You see, vague goals, they produce vague results. Most people never take time to define a worthy goal. They simply respond to whatever feels urgent in the moment. Hey, this needs to happen, that needs to happen, let's go over here. The fire's hotter over there, the fire's bigger over there. If you don't define where you're going, anything feels acceptable. Then you just satisfy yourself by being a hard worker. This connects directly to a theme that I talk about in the book. If you've read my book, Firm Feedback in a Fragile World, I kind of throw this out there throughout the book. In the book, I share how leaders often avoid hard conversations because they don't want to create tension or discomfort. It's true. What I learned is that avoidance does not protect relationship. It erodes relationships slowly. The same is true, whether you're listening and you're a leader or you're saying, Jeff, I need that clarity too. The same is true with goal setting. Avoiding clarity, it feels nice. It feels safe. but it's quietly costing you some level of momentum. Clarity invites responsibility. Vagueness, it protects comfort. If you want something different in this next season, like I do, you can't just drift your way to that next season, to that next destination. You got to be clear. The other principle of the chapter that I love is you get what you want by becoming someone new. Think about how you've evolved up to this point. Matter of fact, now's the time to give yourself a pat on the back. Look how far you've come. But chapter 8 makes this concept and this principle painfully clear. You don't get what you want by wishing for it. You get it by becoming a person that's capable of achieving it. This is why hope and wishing are not great strategies. That truth shows up repeatedly in my own leadership journey. You know, as I look back, and I'm challenging you to look back as well, isn't it true? You get what you want by becoming something new, by becoming someone new. Isn't it true? Well, if it's true, if you look backwards in time and look at your journey and you say, yes, there is proof, that is true, well, then you have to say that is the same application moving forward. You know, in the book, I talk about moments early in my leadership journey where good intentions weren't enough. You know, they weren't enough. I think about my first leadership assignment. I believed that caring for people automatically made me an effective leader. Well, guess what? It didn't. And if you're listening and you're a leader, you know that's true. What changed me was feedback, honest feedback, exposed blind spots that I didn't even know, skills that I had that had not been developed. Look, every new level of responsibility, it required a new level of emotional maturity, a new level of communication skill, a new level of boldness and courage to go into the unknown. Growth was not optional. It was the price of admission to get to the advancement in my life. And the same is true for you. There's no doubt about it. I know that if I want to be a different person at the end of 2026 than I am at the end of 2025, something has to change. I have to grow. I have to invest. I have to be honest with what's holding me back. And then there's another principle in the book that talks about daily discipline. This daily discipline that builds who you're becoming. Now, I know this isn't new news to you. I know we got it. We heard it. I got the T-shirt, Jeff. I know, rise and grind, do the thing. What you do daily is who you become. I got it. But look, here it is. Success is built quietly. It's built through daily actions that align with a clear goal. It's not built on your social media post and your highlight reel and what the world is seeing. It's built in the quiet place. Success is built in the quiet place. There is no defining moment where discipline just suddenly appears. It's formed. Discipline is formed through repetition. It's doing it when you don't feel like it. I did an episode a while back in regards to embrace the boredom. That's where the success is built. It's in the boredom. It's when things get old and mundane and a little bit stagnant and you say, look, I'm going to keep doing the next right thing. This mirrors what we talk about consistently on this show as it relates to leadership. You know, you hear me constantly describe feedback as a muscle, right? It's something that you build. It's something you get better at. Leaders don't suddenly become great at hard conversations under pressure. They become great because they practice clarity consistently in small, everyday moments. The future, it's the same way in our lives. It's the same way as we are becoming effective leaders. The future that we want is built by the conversations that we're willing to have with people today, not the ones that we keep postponing. And the same thing goes with our personal journey. Our leadership journey, it's the same. Our personal journey, our professional journey, it's the same. In both leadership and in life, we have to become people that commit to daily disciplines. The next point that I draw from this as I'm dissecting this chapter and I'm preparing to have the best year of my life is that your environment is critical. Your environment literally shapes your direction. You know, one of the things that you've heard me say probably on repeat, if you've listened or watched the show for a while, is that two things will change who you become: who you surround yourself with and what you consume. What we're talking about here is we're talking about environment. We're talking about what you read, what you listen to, and who influences you to shape your direction. And I know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to an audience of listeners that's listening to the Champion Forum podcast. I mean, look, you got to be pretty freaking amazing if you're listening to this show, right? All right, enough about me. Hey, looking back at this journey, you know, when Sean handed me this book, he didn't just hand me a book. He gave me access to a different way of thinking. This is a shift in environment. I'm reading things new for the first time. This book's blowing my mind. You know, in my book that I wrote, you don't hear me, if you've read the book, you don't hear me highlighting the people who made it comfortable. I don't sit there and say, wow, they just made it easy. You know, it was easy like Sunday morning with that leader. It was just really nice. There was never any tension, never any challenge. No. I talk about the people and how the people who challenged me the most were the most effective in my life. These were the ones that helped me grow the fastest. Get around some people that care for you and are willing to challenge you and willing to tell you your business a little bit. Your environment, it's either fueling your progress or it's quietly working against it. There is no neutral ground. Do you need to find different rooms in 2026? Maybe you've outgrown those old relationships and you're still holding on to them because they're nice and they're comfortable and they've been my ride or die for all this time. I'm not saying you're better than these people, but I'm going to say this. If you want different, you got to be around different. If you want to elevate, you got to be around people that are bringing you up, not just keeping you where you are. Man, if you're the best one in the room and that's a nice stroke to your ego, man, you got to check yourself and ask yourself, am I really needy of this kind of ego treatment because I feel so good in the room? Well, look, let's not celebrate being the best in the room, because what you might be is the cream of the crop, and being the cream of the crop isn't the goal. Matter of fact, I would tell you, go to a bigger room where you feel a little bit intimidated, a little bit of healthy imposter syndrome. This is what's going to help you elevate and grow. Listen, when I read chapter 8 recently, it wasn't about nostalgia for me, and there's some nostalgia in this book for me. It was a transformational season for me, but it was about calibration. I needed to recalibrate. Before I plan another year, another initiative, another commitment, another book launch, another workshop, I need clarity. Literally, if I had to boil it down to 3 things that you should be looking at as well, I believe. What do I actually want? What do I actually want? Who do I need to become to earn that? And the third one, what am I doing daily that supports that direction? Man, this is a great way to clear the fog, y'all. What do I want? Who do I need to become to earn it? And what am I doing every single day that supports what I actually want? What you focus on is what happens. Those questions can get a little uncomfortable, but man, they're honest. They're honest. And honest questions, they lead to meaningful progress. You don't get clarity by accident. You get it by deciding, this will be my year, this will be my moment. And when you decide, you're going to find that your focus sharpens, your actions begin to align, and your growth accelerates. I hope this thought that I'm throwing out to the world today challenged you to look at things a little bit differently. As you pursue 2026 and make this the best year ever, And I say this at the end of every year. If you've been following me since 2019, at the end of every year, you know what I say? Next year's going to be the best one yet. Listen, I'm not here just to be your cheerleader. I'm here to encourage. Why? Because why in the world would we ever go into a new year and not believing it's going to be the best one we've ever had? Look, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. You can either speak life or you can speak death. Speak that 2026 is going to be the best year you've ever had. But don't just talk about it, be about it. Go through these exercises that I talked about in this episode so that you can be intentional to ensuring 2026 is the best year that you've ever had. I'm cheering for you all as you keep turning the pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum Podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.